I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. Oh, here we go. Hi. Hey, it's Jazz from Australia, and welcome to my live stream. I was rushing to get like to just even get to where I am right now. I've had a crazy night. I've done a lot of things. I've had so much energy and I've just been all over the place. So here we are. Welcome. Hello. There's someone's reacting and I can't even see anyone that's here, but that's awesome. Hi. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late though. Okay. Yes, lots of energy, lots and lots of ADHD energy. I don't know what happened to my hair. It's been cut, but like it's really yeah, that's better. I don't know what happened to it. I was trying to get a new haircut and it didn't go the way that I expected it. Hello. Thanks for watching, Renata. Okay, so I'm gonna stop rambling and we're gonna get into the topics. So today's topic, I've got notes. So if I'm looking down, it's because there's notes here. Today's topic is a chat about neurodivergent support needs and how we can be more inclusive. So when it comes to inclusion for neurodiverse people, we're often, you know, we're often experiencing needs that are invisible to the rest of society unless they're also neurodivergent. So ways that we can sort of acknowledge and like recognize that people have additional needs would be to let me just quickly scroll down a bit to ask the person if they need support with something, right? Like if we ask questions, so like as a support worker myself, I also have support workers that support me. So I've got this kind of, like insight where it's like, I can sort of reverse kind of, if I'm supporting someone, I can be like, okay, what would I need in that situation? And what do I know about this person that I'm supporting where I can kind of just, like try and work out what it is that they need. Before I actually keep going into this topic, I might just quickly mention that unfortunately, there won't be enough time to cover all of the topics in depth tonight, but it's literally just past 11:30 p.m. here, so I need to sleep at some point tonight. But I am talking from lived experience and from experience as a support worker. So yeah, I'm not like a therapist or anything like that. I've just worked with neurodivergent people and supported them through their life to, achieve their goals and get their needs met. So neurodivergent needs. So let's identify them because I think that's a good place to start as well. So neurodivergent needs can be invisible, and sometimes they're even unknown to the person that's experiencing a particular need. So like a need for an autistic person could be that they um, might need something to do with their communication or sensory needs. That is totally fine. Um, I might just go grab a water because I forgot to do that. I knew there was going to be a couple of things that I forgot about, and it's also kind of cold. So I'm going to grab a jumper and some water, and I'll be back in a sec as well. I don't know if anyone else is here, so. Okay, I'm back. Got my trusty water, and I am less cold, which is good. Well, I will be soon. Hydration reminder for anyone watching. Okay. I just need to let this energy out. I've got so much energy, and it's just I'm bouncing around. I feel like a bouncy ball right now. um, I went for like a run and a ride on my scooter, and I just kind of have still got like so much energy from that. Okay. Yeah, so needs for autistic people, that can be things like sensory needs, communication needs. Often those needs are invisible to, I think I already said this, invisible to somebody that is looking in from the outside. Inside a neurodivergent person's mind, from my experience and from, looking at other people and supporting them, there's often this sort of I guess disconnect. I'm trying to like regulate. It's just so much energy. There's often like a disconnect, at least for me, when it comes to identifying, hey, I have a need right now. Like I need something in particular. So yeah, like I said, asking that person if there's anything that they might need that can help them is something you can do. Um, Also, you might also feel like it's okay. So it's one thing to ask a neurodivergent person if they need support, only to be met with like a no, I don't think I need support. I feel okay, but then you might feel like you can't really do anything to help them, right? But something that you can do instead, if someone responds and says, no, I'm okay, I don't need help with anything, like something you can do to respond is to realize that that person, again, may not know what sort of supports that they can access. They may not know that they need support. There's so many like very varying factors. Um, And, like I've experienced this so many times, like supporting people as well, where I've gone into someone's house and I'm like, hey, so what do you want to achieve for the day? Like, what could we achieve? What's a realistic thing we could do today? And they're like, well, I don't know. Or they're like, I wanted to tidy up my, like my desk, or I wanted to tidy up something, but then they're sort of struggling to figure out exactly what it is that they need support with. Things that we can do in that instance if we're supporting them. So feel free to show this to your support workers if you have any, or the people in your life that are there to support you. You can come into the situation with an open mind and be like, okay, um, this person clearly needs help with something. How can we break it down and make it easier for them? Also just looking at, you know, if the person's identified goals in the past week that they've really wanted to achieve, but then a week later they're sort of like they're still in this state of like not having achieved the goals. Maybe they've started a new project because ADHD. Maybe they are now have like a new hyperfixation with something. Reminding them that they had goals the previous week and that those goals are really important to them can help that person to remember and be like, oh, right, I really wanted to finish writing this song last week and I was really motivated about it, or I really wanted to finish this drawing that I was working on, or maybe there's something like that, and just give them a little reminder. That can be helpful as well, because it can be the case where we can get distracted and like we forget that we wanted to achieve a thing, but that reminder, that prompting can really help. So identifying support needs, it will often require a lot of deep thought and reflection. So looking at that person with an open mind and being like, okay, I know these certain things about this person already. What can I do to kind of, you know, support them better? Again, so going back to that example of like, like if I were to walk into someone's house and say, what do you want to achieve for today? And they say, I don't know. Um, it's sort of about giving them, I guess, sorry, my thing just moved by itself. It's giving them a bit of a prompt as well. Oh, hello, welcome back. I just had a moment of like complete distraction and energy, and all of the things were happening. So I don't even know if the first half of this is going to make much sense. But hey, that's what winging it is sometimes, I guess. We just go with the flow. I think it's because I rushed to take all these notes in the car on my way back tonight because I'd been out riding my scooter around. Like, I just had so much energy, and I thought if I go out and do that, I'll have no energy. So like I'll just be focused, right? It'll wear me out, but it didn't. So yeah. Um yeah. So I guess someone's internal struggles may not really seem visible, like I've been saying, and someone could feel really stuck inside their mind and they're wishing for change, but they don't know how to communicate what they need. And that's something that I've found quite common as well, is that, you know, there's this kind of feeling of stagnation, of like looking around your space and being like, this isn't working. Like, I know this isn't working and I need help to get through it, but what do I do? And how do I get that help? Because when, like, from experience, when I'm in that state, I don't even know how to communicate and explain what it is I need. Like, I'm sort of paralyzed by this overwhelming fear and this like anxiety of like, okay, I need to clean my room. I need to get my life in order, but what am I doing? And then I start to, spiral, and I'm like, well, I haven't done this and I haven't done that. And I'm still, like procrastinating about this, and all of these things are piling up. And it can even be to the point where like it's hard to ask for help because it's gotten to the point where it's too much. And it's like, well, there can be shame, embarrassment, and fear, and all of these sorts of, negative feelings can just pop up out of nowhere. Whereas if, the people that are supporting us are coming in and seeing this chaos, right? How can we communicate to them? What are some ways, like we'll talk about this, we'll delve into this a bit, but like communicating to the people that are there, like, hey, I need help with this, I'm struggling. Um, because again, internal struggles may not seem visible to people at all, but they are very real for neurodivergent people. I feel as well that it's so important to always work alongside the person as much as possible and ask them as well, like, am I supporting you the right way? Is there anything that I could do better to help you? But just know as well that when someone is experiencing this overwhelm and in this paralysis state, they often are struggling to communicate what it is they need. And well, it's also overwhelming. Like, where on earth do you begin when your whole room is a mess? Your whole house is a mess. And, I think taking a step back, and I sort of like, as a support worker, if I walk into someone's house and I see that mess, then I've got to think realistically. I'm like, okay, if I get in there, like, it depends if someone's autistic as well, because the change and like momentum might scare them, or maybe not scare them, but like make them feel uncomfortable because it's their safe space and they need to process that change gradually. So I've got to be mindful of that, as well as, I'm here to support them. Um, yeah, so something that can help in that instance is to break it down and just ask the person some really good questions. You can reverse this for yourself as well. If you're stuck and you've got enough energy to try and get through something, you can try and ask yourself, where's the best place to start? Where's the least overwhelming area of this environment that I can get started and try and tackle? Because once you get started, you there's a chance you might get that momentum, which helps you to keep going. Um, and again, if you're getting support, so looking from the support side, if you're getting support or needing support to work through this thing, what would be the most, you know, that the person supporting you should be asking that question to you, if you can't, if you don't have the energy to ask that question to yourself. Like, if they said to me, like, Jazz, where's the least overwhelming area in this room that we can focus on, and we're going to start here and break it down. And like, there may be days where you feel like you don't want to get out of bed, you don't even want that support. But it's important to just kind of remember that even though it's hard to ask for help, help is important, because we all need help with things, right? We're all human and we've all got our own things going on in our lives. So if we can get a bit of help, then that's good. I'm gonna lose my voice tonight. I feel like I'm already starting to. Yeah. So whilst it's important to like consult with neurodivergent people while supporting them, um, just remember sometimes it can be overwhelming to I guess have all of these questions asked as well. So there might be times where a neurodivergent person would need you to step back and just, take it easy. Less demands can actually help someone to recover if they're experiencing burnout, is what I've noticed. Because if they're in extreme burnout, they may not have the energy to participate, and they might again, they might really want to be involved in that. And sometimes I've seen people push through burnout where they're like, oh, like I don't have the energy to get out of bed right now, but oh, I have a comment. Okay. Will it be uploaded later? It will be, but the first 10 minutes of this is extremely disorganized and scattered, and I don't think my meds had kicked in yet. So it will be though. Um, it will be because I think it's still there's going to be more valuable information in here, hopefully. So yeah. What was I talking about? Burnout. See, I've lost my train of thought. Um, yeah. So okay, masking through burnout. So people may mask through burnout, and that I've seen people do that where they're like, I don't want to. That's right. I don't want to get out of bed, but my support work is here, so I'm going to push through it, and I'm going to hop out of bed and sit up and talk to them. From a support perspective, I find that extremely unhelpful because I mean, and I'm guilty of doing that myself. I've had my support workers arrive and I'm in bed and I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed, like I have no energy. And they're like, Jazz, you got to go to work. And I'm like, I know, and I want to go to work. I'm excited about work. And they're like, well, you need to get out of bed. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll get out of bed. Unless my PDA kicks in and I'm like, no, I don't want to get out of bed. And they're like, fine, don't get out of bed. And I'm like, oh, I'll get out of bed now. And then sometimes that happens, um, but yeah, like I mean, I've seen people in chronic states of burnout where they're like, "Oh, look, I can push through this. I can get up." And then they start helping me. Like I'm in their room and they've asked me, "Can you tidy up my desk or can you help with this or that?" And I'm like, "Yep, I can. No worries." And then they start to go doing little things around their room and I'm like, "I'm not sure if you're body doubling right now or if you're actually masking and exhausted." And depending on the person, sometimes they'll say, "I'm actually really tired, but because you're here, I feel obliged to like help you." And I just remind people like I'm here to support you. Your needs are the most important thing right now. I'm here for you. That's the reason I've showed up. That's my job. If you want to body double and you have the energy, let's do it. But if you don't, I don't mind if you go back to bed and lay down. And, that's again, it's like it depends on the person. And over time, support workers really should be getting to know the people they support and learning about their needs. Um, so, what can happen when support needs aren't met? If you've got workers turning up to your house and then they're seeing piles of things lying around the house that aren't done, appointments that haven't been added to the calendar, you've missed appointments, you're struggling in other areas, like there's this whole domino effect, your washing hasn't been done, you've got no clean clothes, like if it's gotten to the point where and this is some like like you're not showering, you're not eating regularly, you're not drinking enough water, if self-care's kind of just collapsed and there's been this domino effect, um you've really got to take a step back. I mean, I don't know, like it bugs me because I've worked for people where they've been in this state, right? And I'm like, what are your other support workers doing to support you? And people don't always know. And the hardest part is that like when I've seen people that start getting support, they don't realize that they can actually choose their support workers in Australia. So they get whoever's sent out to them from a provider, from a company that, like sends support workers out. And they don't even get to choose. They don't even get a decision about like how old that person is, their gender. Like they don't even get to meet them first and see if they're a good fit. And if that person's not doing their job very well, then this person's like come into this experience thinking that that's normal and that's kind of what they're going to get. They have what they've got and that's it. They don't know that there's better support out there. And that is one of the things that I really don't like about, well, I've had this happen to me. I've had people come out and they haven't known my name. And that's been, like they didn't even know at the time that I had an assistance dog. They didn't know anything about me. They didn't even know my age. And yeah, so I don't get supports from that sort of, like that sort of provider anymore. I prefer to look at people's profiles and do meet and greets and book them in that way. But yeah, I feel like if people don't know that there's something better out there, then how can they possibly know what they could be experiencing or like what they could be doing in their lives? And yeah, it's just really sad to see. And I even see this with disability support coordinators that are supposed to be managing like the whole thing, right, for a person. Um, and they're not doing their jobs properly. And I see that so much, right? And I've experienced that as well, where I've had coordinators just not doing their jobs. And like, if you don't know any different, then you think you're getting the best care you can because this person is booked in to coordinate your team. And it's like, well, yeah, it just doesn't always happen that way, does it? Um, which is why we need to spread awareness because it needs to stop. That sort of needs to stop. Um, so when people's support needs aren't met, we're looking at a person that's struggling to basically survive. We're looking at someone that's, at their worst state, basically. And if their neurodivergent needs aren't met, there's a very high chance that that can lead them to experiencing a mental health crisis. And I mean, like, I can't say this. I wish I could say this, like, and actually it be a thing, but like, it wouldn't surprise me if burnout itself were called a mental health crisis. If it like because of how intense it can be and how much it can interfere with people's lives. Um, but yeah, it's so important to find a team of support workers that understand you, or an individual support worker that understands you. And some workers just, I don't think some workers are suited to supporting neurodivergent people in Australia. And in Australia, there is no need to stick with a worker if you don't mesh together. Um, but yeah, when it comes to, I guess, I'm just gonna quickly. Burnout can definitely be a mental health crisis. Yeah, and I think as well, like if we don't have sort of safety nets in place, we've got, you know, all these expectations of us, and especially when people are high masking, we often just like our needs get completely dismissed or completely missed altogether. So when you're okay, let me just jump back to all right. So what are some signs that you know that you've got a good support worker? If they're supportive and understanding, and they're eager to listen to you and they don't question why, like for me, they won't question why I need certain things. They just make me feel valued and supported. We can have fun together, we can we can we sort of just have like it flows well, right? Um and there's that kind of, like I feel like I can talk to them about things, and, I can just be myself. Those are the sorts of things that I look for. I think it's also important to look for, like, to look for support workers that have things in common with you, because that way you've got something you can connect with. And also, um, yeah, I think, and looking at it from me being a support worker as well, um, when I know that my participants, that's what we call them in Australia, some people might say clients. I prefer the word participant because they participate in the National Disability Insurance Scheme, which funds all of the supports in Australia. But when I see someone smiling, well, not always, because not all autistic people will smile all the time when they're happy, but when I can just feel that connection and I know somebody is genuinely, like, responding to what I'm saying, and they feel heard and validated, they let me know that as well. And they'll also tell me, like, what I could do better. All of those things, like that, having that connection and good communication and being able to laugh about things and just have a bit of fun, those are the sorts of things that help me know that I'm doing the right thing for people. So reversing that and looking at it from when I receive support, it's like, if I'm experiencing those sorts of things, then I feel like, it's a good fit. And also knowing, like, I'm achieving things, I'm getting through my goals, I'm being reminded of the things I need to do. Those are all important things as well. And that also goes into, so we'll kind of move over to the topic of workplace accommodations as well. So when I'm in my workplace, there are certain things that I need in order to do my job effectively. So I have noise cancelling headphones and earbuds, and I will wear those whenever I need. But the other day, I decided to put them on at the start of my shift because I knew I had a really long day. So I started at whatever time it was in the morning, very early, and just had my earphones on and, like, my headphones on, and, like, everyone sort of knows that I wear them. Um, and even, like, if there's new staff and they don't know, eventually someone will tell them. They'll ask, or, like, things like that. Um, I'm going to focus on positive interactions today because I have had a few negative experiences, but for the most part, I've had a lot of positive ones. I'm lucky to be in a really supportive and accommodating workplace where, like, my boss wants to hear from me, and just like my support workers, I'm not questioned on why I need certain things. If I need to jot information down on paper, it's really good. I can just carry a notebook around. Yeah, it just feels nice to be able to do that. Um, the other thing is, like, I'm actually really grateful that my workplace understand burnout, and I think that if other workplaces could do the same, it would definitely help neurodivergent people to be able to be themselves and just feel more open and be able to do a better job, like, work harder. Because if they do burn out for some reason, if you've got a really caring boss and you can say to your boss, "Hey, I burnt out. Like, I can't come into work. I don't know how long I'll be away for, but I'm in burnout." A supportive boss would be someone that would say, "That's okay. Take as long as you need. Like, take as long as you need. I understand burnout's not easy." And if they're not neurodivergent, maybe they could say, "I've read about it. I've watched some videos, and you take as long as you need." That would be an ideal boss, right? Like, and once you're feeling a little bit better, how about we sit down and have a chat and see if there's a way that we can get you back to work sooner rather than later, and put some more accommodations in place to support you through that process. Like that, that would be so good, right? Um, and I think, where I'm working at the preschool, I feel like there's that support where I can say, like, I've called up before and said that, I didn't sleep well the night before because ADHD. And there's been a level of understanding and support that's made me feel like, hey, these guys genuinely are here for me, like, they care. So if workplaces can start to do that, all over the world, that would just it would make things so much easier, I think. Um, so yeah, I'm going to take some questions if anyone watching has questions, but I'm also going to ask as well if there's any topics that I've sort of talked about that you might want to hear more about that might interest you. And hydration reminder as well, if anyone needs that. Okay. Unfortunately, they care too much about money, so they usually let people continue working until they completely break down. Yeah, so a lot of places, yeah, greed is a thing. People can be very, money hungry. And I think that's actually an important topic that we should talk about more as well is like, oh, tea is good. Tea is so good. Um yeah, so making people work till they burn out or till they break down. Support work is not an easy role. It's like it can drain your energy, especially when you work very closely with someone and you sort of you start learning about them a lot more and you start to see what they're going through and like there's times where I'm like I've seen people that have started to like really progress in some ways and they're getting their life together the way that they want it to, and one little thing happens and the next thing I know I'm like in my head I want to scream and say no, don't make that decision, that's really not okay. And yeah, my role is to be supportive of that person's decision and to help them make informed decisions with their life. So an informed choice is, just so you know, I can't stop you from doing the thing that you're thinking of doing, but these are potential risks that could occur if you do this thing. Um, that's your decision. Like you make that decision based on the knowledge that you have. And it's hard because yeah, like people just sometimes people don't recognize that they're falling into an old pattern, or they don't recognize that, you know, I don't know, it could be how they're spending their money and things, and that's their decision, right? That's their choice. But if they want to impulsively purchase $300 worth of plushies in one day when they need to pay their rent, well, you know, I can say to them, have you paid your rent? Depending on the person. Some people wouldn't like to be questioned on that. But is there anything else you needed to spend the money on? Something I could prompt or just remind. But it is hard because oftentimes there's nothing that, can you can really do. Um, and also I guess like, seeing people make decisions about going back to a partner that might be really toxic and things like that, and you're sort of sitting there in the sidelines thinking like, I really want this person to be okay. There's just, again, not much you can do other than helping with them with the informed decisions. Some of my support workers don't do it that tactically. They just judge me for buying stuff from my special interests. Can you explain what you mean by tactically? Like, I can see what you mean about being judged for buying stuff. Um, but see, our special interests make us happy, so we should feel like we're able to spend money on those things because they mean a lot to us and they bring us joy. But I never spend money I don't have. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Um, I'm trying to understand what you mean by support workers don't. Oh, right. So they're not helping you make informed decisions about like how you're what you're spending money on, and they're not really understanding where you're coming from. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that just comes down to, you know, I guess, education and knowledge and experience. Um, which it's sad because many people don't realize. I guess we could, well, this goes into another topic of restrictive practices. So, um, they're just like, you bought stuff again, your room's gonna, I don't know what, oh, gonna become a mess again. Yeah. Okay, but see, then there needs to be a kind of understanding of the symptoms or the traits of ADHD as well, and autistic needs as well. So, I mean, that sounds like guilt tripping, and it also, to me, it sounds like, just from those comments that you've put there, like that they are not understanding, like, I don't think it sounds like they don't understand their job role. Um, oh, do I have a boyfriend? No, I don't. No, I'm quite happy just in my own world, in my own head. It's a good place to be. Because all I can do is really rely on myself, and, you know, I'm happy with that. I've only got to take care of myself. That's hard enough, though. Sometimes that's hard enough. I would not have the time nor energy to have a relationship at the moment. So, yeah, I've never been asked that question. Um, Anything further on that topic? Agree about the guilt tripping part. They also say that they'll rent cleaners that will throw away anything that doesn't fit in a closet or cabinet and put me on a budget even though I don't have any debt. Okay. Uh yeah, that sounds really rough. I'm sorry that they've done that, that they've said that. Um their job should be, well, I mean, at least in Australia, a support worker's job is to support someone with the things that they struggle with due to their disabilities. So that just sounds like like a toxic parent almost. It sounds like something that my grandparents would have done when I lived with them, um, when I was younger. If like, because that actually, that kind of is what happened. I came home one day, my room had been a mess. I was struggling. I was a teenager, and everything I owned was bagged up and just thrown into garbage bags and put down in the shed out in the backyard, like in the shed. And I was a mess because I had all of my little favorite things lined up in a row in on, like autistically lined up and stuff. And I was really upset. But they were like, "We don't know what to do. Like, you're not keeping your space clean." Um, they're like, "It's a pigsty," and it just, yeah, that didn't help. Um, I wish they would ask me something like, "Hey, I see you don't manage to keep our agreement of not buying so much Wink stuff. How can we help you manage that better?" Well, okay, hang on, wait a second. My question to that is, why is that an agreement if it's your money? I don't know whether or not you're paying rent where you are, but if it's your space, I mean, it's your space. That's how I would see it. But it to me, the focus should be on actually, yeah, I don't know why there's an agreement. That's very confusing. That's actually a big red flag. I hope you haven't signed anything. Like, that's yeah. They decide for me to call it an agreement. It sounds like a toxic place to be honest. That's horrible. And yeah, we have chatted about this, and I know that people watching won't have much context on this other than what they're seeing right now. So I won't share anything other than what you've shared here. Um, yeah, that's a really complex situation. I feel like the only thing I can suggest with that is that we chat about it later, to be honest. Um, so I've limited space and it was really full and not fire safe. Yeah, so that's hard if there's like obviously a fire danger or somewhere has policies and things in place for safety. They didn't buy anything, and another resident recently told me they can't even do that. Threatened to throw my stuff away. Well, it's your stuff, so I'm not sure of the law in the part of the world that you know where you are, but it doesn't sound right. No, you haven't signed anything. I'm not a lawyer or anything either, so I can't give legal advice, but it just doesn't sound right to me. ADHD is buy things. That is like a normal ADHD thing. Yes. um, but yeah. So I feel like what should we talk about now? Is there anything else that we can I'm just scrolling through all my notes. But we can chat about that stuff later if you like. Um I'm just thinking about I want to try and delve deeper into the whole explaining like hang on. Oh, no, I can stick around. I've probably got about half an hour left in me, I reckon. I could probably go till an hour and 10 minutes. Favorite color? Favorite color would be probably blue or green. I like green. I don't know, like, as a child, I liked green, now I like blue, and now I like blue and green, and sometimes I can't tell the difference between the 2 of them. I'm not colorblind that I know of, but, yeah. I can tell, but there are just some shades of blue that look kinda green, I suppose. Um, okay. Yeah, blue and green. I don't know, probably. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, so back on the topic of what else happens when support needs aren't met, because we've already talked about burnout, we've talked about mental health worsening potentially. But one thing that I haven't sort of talked about is communication in autistic people can just drop. And I've seen this happen before. Like, people could be nonverbal, people could be struggling to articulate their needs, they could be, sort of that state of paralysis. I think I mentioned that before. When support needs aren't met, people can also lose faith and trust in the people around them that are meant to be helping them. And it can also lead people to not ask for help anymore. And that's one of the worst things that can happen, right? Because we want to build and foster a really positive environment. We want to, we want to have connections with other people that are effective, and where people feel understood and heard. But if that trust is broken over time, it can, I mean, I've supported someone a couple of years ago, and I said to them, like, hey, like, do you want me to help you to organize, um what was it that they needed? They needed to go out, and they needed to get a new fridge because their fridge had broken, or it was like making this sound or something, and it wasn't cooling everything properly, like the freezer. So there was something in it that wasn't working properly. Like they were still able to use it, but it wasn't effective. Like it wasn't working properly. And they said, "Oh no, I can't do that." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, because someone told me that that's not what my disability funding is for." And I said, "So you're neurodivergent and you're struggling to manage this and get this done and actually go out and get something sorted, and yet someone's told you that you can't use your funding to do that, and now you're just using a fridge that isn't working properly. Like, how? Why? How is this even?" And but they said, I don't feel comfortable with it. Can we stop talking about it, please? I don't feel like they didn't trust that it was possible. I've also supported other people where I've said, I can help you to get noise canceling headphones so that you can access the community and go out and do things. And they've said, oh, there's no point. And I'm like, why not? And they're like, well, I'm just going to get knocked back. Someone's going to say that I can't use the funding on that, and there's no point. And again, I'm just like, but if you don't try, then how will you know whether or not you can? And also, if we don't give it a go, how can we possibly get you into a better place and get you out there in the community doing all these things that you want to achieve? But again, that's their choice, right? But it's because I think it's because of the way the system is, and it's the way that they've been treated previously by their support workers that has caused them to feel this way. And that's what I think, at least, because there was a time where, again, I didn't know what I could access. I didn't know what my rights were, and a lot of the time, people with disabilities aren't told what their rights are, because a lot of the time, neurodivergent people are diagnosed with, ADHD, autism, and they don't even really get told much about the diagnosis itself, right? So how on earth could someone be expected to know that they have disability rights if they don't even know that about the diagnosis and their symptoms? I think as neurodivergent people, as we start to age and grow and learn more, we start to learn more about ourselves, and we start to be able to come up with ways to communicate that to other people. But it's a really, really tricky process to begin with, because, like, especially being autistic, language can be tricky. Language can be really easy and fun and engaging, but it can also be really hard to convey meaning, the right meaning. If we use the wrong word, or or our sentences aren't structured the right way, someone could interpret that completely different. And so when we are really in need of help, we're burnt out. We're at this state of like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to communicate what I'm going through, but then the words and the images in our minds can be so like big, and take up so much of our energy and our capacity to do much, that we're sort of just, again, it's that paralysis of, like, thoughts, feelings, emotions, images in our minds. We want to say all these things. We really do. We want to be able to say, like that. I guess for myself, I've experienced moments where I'm like, I want to ask for help right now. And I want to just point to things, because that takes less cognitive effort than actually speaking. So it's like, I just want to go point over there, and it's like magic, and that's done. Point over there, magic, that's done. And it's almost like I want it to be done in the way that my brain is imagining that it needs to be done. Right. So everything's set out the way that I would do it if I had the energy to do it. If I get someone else to do it for me, sometimes it's like they'll go home, they'll have tidied up an area in my room or something just to help me out. They'll go home and I'll be like, okay, I need to move this, I need to move this, I need to put this over here. It's like that's not how I wanted it to look, but they've tried their best and I can't be upset about that. They've done what they could, you know. Um but yeah, it's tricky sometimes because it's like, well, um how can you communicate your support needs? I've been making, I want to see if I can find where I've put it, but I probably should have had it out. Oh, I can read through my iPad. That is what I'll do because it's all saved on here. I've been making some content, and this is really exciting actually. I wasn't planning to share this today, but I will because you guys deserve to hear the exciting things that I'm working on. So if I can actually find where it is, but I will try and explain it. Basically, I have it's like a checklist of, um, well, there's a couple of things. So one of them is called How Do I Feel? And it's a rating score from 0, well, it was originally 0 to 10, but then it started to go up to 14. 0 being, and this is tailored towards me. So it's like a checklist, well, not a checklist, it's like a guide. It goes on the wall. 0 is I'm feeling great, no need to mask, I can do things independently. That's my baseline. That's good for me. Like that's really, really good. If I'm at that level, I'm in my zone. If I'm at a 1, I'm feeling okay, not masking too much. I can do most things independently. So I've kind of jumped up a bit, right? Number 2 is I feel all right. I'm masking a bit more though. So we're starting to get into like bit of danger zone kind of. Number 3 is I feel all right despite some mild headaches, some brain fog, some moments of feeling flustered, but I think I've got this under control. Number 4 is things are starting to fall apart at home. I'm trying to keep up with everything but struggling, but my headaches are increasing. We keep going all the way through to 6 or 5 is that, well, that's the next one. 5, been forgetting appointments, not replying to text messages. I need to push on because there is a lot to catch up on. I've been at a 5 quite often. But the interesting thing is that as they keep going along the list, I've actually got a piece of like, well, a sheet of paper, I suppose, because some of these I've printed out. But it actually tells people what to do at that rating level to support me and what I can do to support myself. So at rating level 1, um, it's great that you're not masking too much. So it's kind of written in a way as if someone's reading it to me. And doing most things independently. Remember that asking for help is a sign of utmost strength. Keep yourself in check and follow your routines closely. Being at a 1 is great. Your brain and or body must feel amazing. Neurotypical pitfalls and inevitable last-minute changes to routine can easily occur last minute. Your ADHD might like this, but keep in mind your autistic brain often has other thoughts. And the effects that changes can have on your autistic brain is, sorry, I got distracted because you commented. I'll read it in a second. It's a good distraction, don't worry. Okay, and the effects and changes it can have on your autistic brain are not always noticeable until the last minute or long after the changes occurred or seems manageable. So this is all tailored towards me, but it might help other people as well. Um, Remember that while you feel adequately okay now, um, you still have support needs and you don't want to see yourself getting to rating 7 without warning. When you're at rating 1, do this. So even at rating 1, it's got some advice. Give yourself some time to take a break from whatever it is you're doing. Remember what it feels like to be at a 0. It is very achievable to be back at a 0 because you're only one step away from it. That makes it seem easier, right? It's okay to go backwards, which is something you're good at. I find that funny because I'm constantly falling down and getting back up again in life. I say that out of self-love and self-care. Found something else that might help when you feel like this, or do you need to tweak this? If so, create a reminder, which gives accountability and momentum, to update this and make sure to prioritize it. So to update this like guide, basically. The idea is to try and keep yourself at the lowest rating possible for optimal brain focus and flow. Flow is an important topic. I want to cover that at some point. I feel like I could stick around for like an hour and a half now because I'm getting in the groove. I don't know how long you guys can hang around for, but we'll look at 5. So things to do when everything starts to crumble. So this says batten down the hatches. Isolate yourself from anything in your environment that may be triggering you or causing you harm. Find your headphones, find a safe place to bunker down. Check in with your body. Do you need to drink water? Do you need to take your meds? Is there anything in your environment that is upsetting you or making you feel overwhelmed? Using the least amount of effort, how could you remedy this? So out of 5, and then it even says, like, if you're struggling to answer this question right now, please go back to the rating system and review your rating just to be sure it hasn't changed, because I know that I and other neurodivergent people I've worked with have a tendency to downplay what we're going through or not realize that we're actually feeling a lot worse than we are. So if it's hard to answer these questions at a rating number 5, there's a good chance I might be at a rating number 6 or a 7. So it's sort of prompting me to just confirm that. And because I have difficulties with working memory and ADHD, I will forget that I've even, written this stuff out. So it's like when I read it, it's like reading it for the first time again. And I'm like, oh, that's right. I wrote that there. That's actually really helpful. And then, so the next bit says the following page contains important information that you need to relay to your support team. It will explain your current support needs, well, hopefully as best it can, given it's pre-written, and help articulate how you're doing right now. This information may not be relevant in every situation, so I've covered that too, and that's why it's important to tweak and modify the info when needed. Okay, so on the topic of support workers and receiving support, Level 5 says, support workers, please help me. I am overloaded with tasks and thoughts. Also, if I knew how to screen share, I would be doing that right now so you guys could view what I'm looking at, and I'm sorry that I can't, because I know many neurodivergent people are visual thinkers. So it says here, I urgently need time to recover or recuperate because I've started to push myself too much too far. You can assist me by bringing me an unopened bottle of water, unless I indicate that I want one that's already open. Ensure that if my medication alarm goes off, that you remind me that I have agreed in this document that I need to take my meds when I'm prompted to. I have some PDA symptoms, so if I have written something in here that says I'm going to do a thing, I'm going to do the thing, especially if they remind me I've done that. If I take them, I will be able to think clearer and communicate better. So that's kind of just reinforcing and reminding me that, like, these meds help me function. So why would I not take them if they help me? Taking my meds will also prevent or sometimes help remedy a headache if I have one. That's another valid point too, because I get a lot of headaches and, sometimes that helps. But I forget that in the moment, so having this here is helpful. Please check my environment for any sensory triggers. Think of all 5 senses and try and imagine what could be triggering me based off the information you already know about me. Please don't ask me to do much right now. Kindly redirect me if I start doing things for myself, because at a level 5, I'm probably going to be struggling to even, think about that stuff. And stay nearby but out of my space unless I indicate otherwise. That's important because overload can happen if you feel cluttered and things like that. You feel too closed in by, people. Online support workers can also send messages. I have a Discord group with my support workers in it, to an in-person support worker to alert them to how I'm feeling and lessen the amount of work that they, remind me to do when they're with me. And they can help me find something distracting, interesting, or relaxing to take my mind off everything. And then I have a reminder for myself here that says, reminder to make another one of these for times when I need to be prompted to do the things for myself a bit more than I am. Because I know that there are days where it's like I could be doing more for myself than I am, and I want to be able to do that. And I need that sort of motivation and that momentum. So, are you guys keen to hear any more about the rating system? Because I can read out another one of these if that's helpful. Because I wouldn't mind if you want me to do that. I could read one for like one of the more intense ratings because it gets to the point where we've got 10, which is mental and likely physical exhaustion. I need a lot of support. I'm completely nonverbal, dizzy, not self caring. Talking is way too much effort slash impossible. I am so exhausted I can't rest. Can only type basic words. In other words, I can't even rest because it's all too much. I can read through that one if anyone's interested. Um I've also got, yeah, there's lots of like helpful things I've started here. Oh, and actually, let me have a look at the comments. Okay. Here we call it a crisis plan, I think, but yours is more elaborated. Yeah, so this is something I want to share with the community because I'm sick of people not getting the help they need, and it just bugs me. It's like, well, if only we could all, we could achieve so much more. We would be able to do so much more if we had the energy. I think a lot of energy is wasted trying to get our needs met. I actually think yeah, that wow. The more I think about this stuff, the more I talk about it, the more it just clicks. And I'm like, we waste energy existing, right? We shouldn't be having to do that. Um, Existence should give us energy, if anything. We should feel content and we deserve to feel good and happy and live a good life. Um, yeah, that's just blown my mind a little bit there. Just sometimes simple things like that, I'm like, wow, you know. Um, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning is that receiving support at home from a new support worker during burnout, when we really need the support, for me, this is speaking from experience, can often be more tiring than getting the support because we've got a new person coming into our space that doesn't know us and we're expected to just mesh with them, like click with them immediately, and then they know how to help us. If we're in that chronic state of burnout or exhaustion where everything is an effort and a new person comes in, that's a recipe for, like, I was going to say for disaster, but potentially it could go well. You never know. I don't want to be negative about it, like completely, but it could go well, but there's a big chance that it may not go well because you don't have that prior connection. Um, but yeah, asking for help and support, Jungle Clan, then you're right. Like asking for help and support is important. Um, and if we don't do that, people don't know that we're struggling, so it's going to be harder to get our needs met, right? Um, so, talking to new support workers, talking to any support workers during burnout to get support can involve a significant amount of communication regarding the location of items that you might need them to help clean something, they can't find anything, and explaining all of this can be exhausting but still beneficial, even though it's hard because, you know, I guess it's also important to sort of think about when you're in burnout, or I guess there's different types of being burnt out, isn't there, as well? But for the most part, self reflecting and thinking about when you're in burnout, is it easier to get up and move things around yourself? Are you going to feel more drained doing that? Or are you going to feel more drained like communicating to somebody what you need them to do step by step. Like, is the communication harder or is the physical effort of moving harder? Which one do you think could be easier for you? And those are important things to just noting that down somewhere and keeping that, in a book somewhere. Maybe starting to, like, I don't know, self reflect about your particular needs and burnout and how things, like, what's easier for you can help, because then, sorry, I'm going to have a sip of water. I'm talking so much right now. But yeah, so like, sorry. Um, yeah, like talking might be more effort, but I mean, what's easier for you? That's sort of what I meant. What the point that I'm trying to make is, like, what's easier, and keeping all of those sorts of things that you think about in a book somewhere. Um, so for me, when my energy levels are low, um, having a new support worker support me might escalate my stress levels because I might feel compelled to guide them. And that just does take so much cognitive effort. And that might result in excessive communication. So I'm over communicating, I'm drained, I'm fatigued. And when they go home, I'm recovering from the social experience of having someone in the house. And, it's like, if I don't keep an eye on what they're doing, they might move something and then I can't find it. Um, yeah. So I've sort of got this thing, like, I have this thing written down and it says, when you're supporting me, pick up items. Like, if you're dusting a shelf or something to help with that, like, just pick it up, dust under it, put it straight back where you found it, and we're good. Recovering from, those sorts of interactions when I'm in that state could take days. And depending on the intensity of the communication and my initial energy level as well. So all of those factors, I always try and consider those. So if you've got like a book and you want to put all this information in a book somewhere, those are topics that you could also try and reflect on. And sometimes, like, I mean, I do a lot of self-reflecting, but sometimes what will happen is um we don't always it's almost like we know what we need and it's on the tip of our tongue, but we just don't have the words. Um my advice, if that happens, or from my experience, is to just keep trying to pull apart whatever that thing is until eventually it clicks. And it can take weeks, it can take months. Um but it's learning more about yourself. Hopefully, I'm making sense with what I'm talking about. Um, there's just so many layers and elements to being neurodivergent. So bit by bit, you've just got to go, okay, if I'm like this in this context, what am I like in this context? Is it similar? And how do I react after this event? And, like, you know, um, yeah, so to manage this, like, you can break things into smaller parts and you can seek support. Um, if you've got any, like, support groups that you're in with other neurodivergent people, you could do some body doubling if you have the energy for that. And if yeah, so if you could also wait until someone is able to help you, because that might be less overwhelming if possible. Or the other alternative is that if this support worker you don't know very well, you could get them to do something else for you, like go and get groceries and bring them to you. Um, I don't know if in other parts of the world that is something that's possible, but there might be just other odd jobs that they can do for you where it's like not as overwhelming, not as in your personal space, and you're still getting something done. They might throw on a load of laundry and hang that out for you, and that might be something that you don't have to think about. So then you've got clean clothes and you're more likely to get out of burnout faster because you've got, you know, something's already kind of worked out for you and you don't have to think about that. and you can focus on getting yourself in the shower or making sure you eat something. Um, but yeah, so it's important to sort of prioritize your energy levels and what you're doing when you're burnt out. Any questions so far? Any questions at all? Because I'm happy to answer questions. I hope I'm on track, and I hope this is like helpful in some way. Um, I'm just looking at the previous comments to see if I've missed anything. Um, Let me see if there's, hang on. Oh, another important topic is, or another important thing to mention is that, um, okay, let's just chat really quickly about the types of things that neurodivergent people may need support with. So I would say organizing a calendar, organizing their week. Um, One thing that I'm struggling with at the moment is, and I'm working on it, and I think I'm making a lot of progress. I think I mean, I have been struggling with, I wouldn't say I am currently, but it would be like managing my week and how much I can, you know, focus on without burning out, how much work I can take on, things like that. Planning for times where I might get sick and then having like a plan in place because I won't be able to work when I'm sick. Um, Attending appointments, housekeeping, cleaning, grocery shopping, meal prep, staying hydrated, managing medications, possibly. These are all examples of things. They're not necessarily things that I need support with personally, but they are things that I've supported people with, as well as other things that I've heard other people have needed support with. Setting up a schedule, communicating their needs, understanding their needs, um, making decisions. So I wouldn't say people would be making decisions. Like support workers shouldn't be making decisions for the people they support in Australia unless they are like an appointed decision maker. I'm pretty sure like our job is to basically, again, I think I mentioned this before, like help people make informed decisions and provide them with information to help them do that. But helping someone make a decision is, you know, they're still making the decision. What else? Um, just like vacuuming, like all different types of cleaning, prompting to have a shower, going and even just going to get someone a towel to go have a shower. Like, here's a towel, here's some fresh clothes. That's one less thing you need to think about. You go have a shower, things like that. Other support needs might be note taking during important appointments or meetings, helping to re-explain things to somebody as well. Like they might be in a meeting and they don't understand a question, so you can just be like, oh, this is what they actually meant. Or, you can sort of like ask the person that's asked the question, like, just to check so that the person I'm supporting understands, is this what you meant by, whatever it is they said? because I've found that can be really helpful for people because they don't always know. um I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if someone was asked a question like, do you need support like at home with self-care? And a neurodivergent person answers, no, no, I can do that myself. I'm good at that. I can take care of myself because I live alone, right? So they've interpreted that question in that way, whereas the person asking the question wanted to know how they go with, you know, the things we just talked about, like staying hydrated, eating regularly, managing their medications, getting out of bed on time and getting to wherever they need to go for the day, showering, all of that stuff. And then, rephrasing that question might, help that person to realize, actually, yes, I do need help with self care. So, yeah, those are the sorts of things like rephrasing questions. But how long have we got? We've got, maybe there's enough time. Like if I go overtime, I go overtime. Let me see. Um, this is it here, I think. Okay, so I'm going to this is something I've been working on as well. So this is called a friendly check-in. That's what I've called it at the moment. It's just it's like assessing where someone's at, basically. So so these are some things here, like some really good questions that I find helpful when somebody comes in to support me. Is there anything on your mind today? What have you been thinking about? That's a really, really effective question because rather than saying, how are you doing? And then the response is, oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you? Which is usually the default for most people. I sometimes answer that literally and say, I am doing terribly. I am doing a lot of things at the moment and I'm burning out or things like that. But if someone says, is there anything on your mind? What have you been thinking about? Well, that's more helpful, in my opinion. For me, that is there anything on my mind today? I might say something like, yeah, I've got heaps and heaps of clothes to wash and I've got to take something back to the shops and I need to remember to hang out the laundry when it's finished, and then I don't know, I've got an appointment later in the afternoon, then I've got to go to work, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. So what have you been thinking about? Again, that's getting more of a idea of what's happening. When someone says, what are the plans for today? I sort of sometimes don't know how to answer that, because what are the plans for today? Well, that makes me think I can have any plan I want. Like, what are the plans for today? I could be like, oh, I don't know. But then, what have you been thinking about? That's going to that gives me more to go off. I don't know why, but I'm curious if anyone watching is relating to that, because yeah. If someone says, what would you like to do today? I might say, oh, I want to go see a movie, and then I want to go shopping, and then I want to go out for lunch, and I want to, I don't know, go on a really big walk, or I want to, I don't know, just something random like that, right? But then all of the priorities and all of the things that were like mentioned before, like, what have you been thinking about? Is there anything on your mind today? All of those things kind of just go out the window and they don't happen, right? Um, a lot of questions are very confusing. Do you mean like um the way that some people word the questions? Like, I'm guessing that's what you mean. The other things that I find, yeah, so another question that I find is really hard to answer is, how can I help? That question, I don't know what it is about that question, but, like, yeah, okay. Yeah. Like, when they say, like, "Alright, what are we doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know what we're doing." That's not helpful. I don't know why, but that's just not helpful for me, like, and then how can I help? It's like, yeah, well, how can you help? Um, I don't know, but then a better question could be, and this is a really, I find this a really good question. They're more specific. They just seem to be worded in a way that's, yeah. Because, like, so the questions that aren't so good seem too, like, generalized, and to me they can cause overwhelm and misunderstanding, and they can also lead to procrastination. I always think, aren't you supposed to know ways to help me with what I'm struggling with since you did an education for it? That can be challenging. Yes, that's, yeah, that's really hard. I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. That sucks. Um So the more specific questions can be easier to answer, and they can lead to higher levels of productivity and or understanding. So, like, how do you feel you're going in relation to your personal goals? That question is so specific, but it's also really, it can give so much helpful information, because that person can, like, reflectively go back and be like, well, how do I feel with my personal goals? And if they say, well, I've been trying to stick to a, like, a change of diet. I've changed how I eat, and I'm not doing so well with that. Or like, I've been exercising lately and I've just been, for the past week I haven't been, and now I feel like I've gone backwards. Then the support worker can be like, "Oh, right. Then we need to make that a priority, because you've worked so hard on it the week before and you've had this momentum and now you've lost it. Let's do something about that today." And then we'll make it a regular thing. Like, that would be ideal, at least in my opinion. Another question, how has your health been lately? And you can even say, how's your mental health been lately? That question is also helpful, because again, there's also the possibility that somebody has just cleaned the the hell out of their room, right? And they've burnt out because they've done all this work, and they look like they're in a good place because their environment's, tidy and everything, but they're just tired. So when you ask that question, like, how has your health been lately? How's your mental health been lately? Um, that could give some insight, because that person might be saying, look, I'm really stressed. I've been going through a lot. I've had so much happening. I'm exhausted. And then, you know, that could lead to further discussion. So these are just starting points. Um, and then this question's really good for ADHD, I've found. Is there anything you've been procrastinating about lately? That one's good. I like it. I think it's really good. Because that question gets right to the, like, straight to the point. It's like, yeah, and that way there could be some accountability as well if there have been things. All right. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Is this helpful? I hope this is helpful. Um, the next bit in this rating system is so there are a bunch of questions and there's a rating scale. I'm just going to see if I can just quickly hold this up to the screen. It might not look fantastic, but I'm checking that there's, yeah. So it's a rating system, and you can score your answers from, like, like, no, which is green, to red, which is overload. And I've just used a generic little dog that looks like Chloe. Um, as the, like, you sit that there to know where the level's at. So the questions on the rating scale are, oh, I'm glad it's helpful. Um, Is there anything in your environment that's bothering you right now? So you can be like, no, a little bit, yeah, heaps, or overload. Have you found yourself struggling to manage any of your priorities? And then you can answer that one as well. Have you currently experienced any health related difficulties lately? Yeah, do you have any unmet sensory needs at the moment? Um, do your individual needs today seem to be taking precedence over your assigned priorities, e.g., your appointments, work commitments, housework, etc.? Have you found yourself saying yes to things you don't want to do because you feel pressured to? Oh, yeah, I remember talking about this. Social pressure or internal, external influence. Have you felt like you've been overexerting yourself by doing too many social things? Are there things you have tried to do this week but failed to get done? Do you feel like you need more downtime and sensory regulation lately? Are you upset, overwhelmed, or frustrated about things you feel you are unable to control and or struggling to find a way to communicate this? And then you can kind of complete it, and I won't share this because it's got, oh, I can share this part. So then you've got like this, which I don't know if you can read it, but like all of the questions are written there from the ones that I just read out, and then you can sort of list them. So like things in my environment that's been bothering me was the red one. And then we go into listing the priorities that you've been struggling with, current health related difficulties, unmet sensory needs, all of the things that were in the first page. And then the next page is, it looks pretty much identical. So we can, there we go. It looks the same, but it says these things can help my environment. These are priorities I can work on tackling. And then it just like, here are some ways I can meet sensory needs, all of those things. So basically, it breaks it down, helps you come up with a structure, and well, like a plan, I should say. It you get everything out of your brain that's bothering you, and then you can go back up to the rating system and you can look at the ones that you've marked as overload and be like, right, um I've been struggling to manage priorities, and that was a really high scoring one, so I need to work on like that before anything else, because that's, that one's kind of like really high at the moment, and then just work your way through it that way. And oftentimes when I work through one of these things here and I lessen the amount of impact it's having on me because I meet a need or something, I then realize that everything else feels better. So it's it's a domino effect. And it's just about like, you know, what are the sorts of things that you can do to support yourself, I guess. But also if you've got support workers, they can sort of use this as well. Because like I don't have support workers all the time, so I'm not. I've got, like I've got to do things for myself too. What else? Um, I am a little bit tired. But it's okay. Let's see. So we've got. Okay, this is important, and I think. Okay, unmet needs, like support needs, can lead to an autistic meltdown or shutdown. We haven't covered that, and I think it's really important. So, when someone experiences a meltdown, they could become so overwhelmed by emotion, thoughts, or feelings that they may quickly become placed at a significant risk of harm. And that's not to say everyone will, but that's possible. It's really dependent on the situation, the person, and I guess as well, so many factors like what's their week been like, what's their month been like, how have they been coping lately, have there been a lot of changes in their life, what is their personality like, do they mask highly, a lot. And then, so they just kind of withdraw or shut down. Um, let's see. So living with unmet needs can become uncomprehendingly distressing for neurodivergent individuals. As mentioned, neurodivergent people have disabilities that impact, I think I did mention this, at least I hope I did, that impact their communication. I don't think I mentioned their emotions as well. So like our emotions can be um impacted by lots of different things. So yeah, it can be quite disturbing and or frustrating when um, you know, it can just be really challenging when a neurodivergent person is trying to communicate, yet they're experiencing the very traits that come with their diagnosis. So basically trying to communicate but struggling with communication at the same time. And it can feel like, all that effort was for nothing, because if there are people around them dismissing their needs and not providing them with the help they need but not listening, then that's really damaging. And it's I'm trying to think of the right word here. It creates, I guess it goes back into that sense of not trusting people, but it can also just make people feel like giving up, right? It's like, well, you know what? I just don't ever want to try and ask for help. But ADHDers also often struggle to address critical medical issues a lot of the time, and not all ADHDers. Um, because they could experience like challenges with task initiation and like completing tasks. So when an ADHD has an appointment or needs to go book a follow-up or something, and let's say that doesn't get added to the calendar, then that medical condition is, obviously still a thing, but the appointment just never happened because the ADHD potentially forgot about it. That is a big thing that I mean, I've experienced that. I've supported people that have, like, come to me and said, "Before you started supporting me, I was always forgetting appointments. Like, I was always, I never people weren't helping me follow through with things." So I think it's just important that support workers are aware of that. Like ADHDers can struggle to just even remember due to difficulties with working memory as well. Um, And as ADHDers, we deserve to have our efforts to communicate taken seriously. And, you know, positive experiences will encourage us to hopefully tackle more important tasks and get on top of medical treatment plans and things, because why would we want to be ridiculed or like made to feel bad just for forgetting something that clearly we care about our health if we're trying, right? That's how I see it. There's no point making us feel bad, you know. It's not going to help us feel motivated to work on things. Um, it's probably going to lead to this sadness and kind of like what's the word? Isolation, like isolating ourselves from other people and procrastinating, and it's just that there's a cycle, right? Um, so again, we're all different, and I can't speak for everyone. I'm just speaking from my experience and my own lived experience. Um, yeah. So when neurodivergent people can't articulate their thoughts or they're not given the right support to communicate, um, actually, yeah, how can a support worker help an autistic person to communicate? Good question. I struggle to answer this sometimes. I struggle to comprehend this question. It is a big thing. How can a support worker help an autistic person to communicate? I'm gonna go out on a whim here and say help them to develop strategies and tools that they can use in situations where they need to communicate. Because in that moment of struggling, it's it's like energy levels could be at a minimum, focus could be at a minimum, overload could be at its highest, sensory overload, like all of those like things, your brain isn't, it's almost like if I'm in that sort of overwhelmed state, my brain is not in a state of mind where it can think about using words the right way. Like I might be very direct. I'll forget to say please. I'll forget to thank people for things. They'll say, "What is it you needed?" And I'll go, "Oh, it's just there." Or like I won't be able to explain much. I'll just be like, they'll be like, "Where?" And I'll just point to it. Or I'll just be like, um, "It's near the blue thing over there." And that's me trying to really communicate there and give them more information without draining myself at the same time. Communication can be draining. When it's related to like a special interest or something or a hyperfixation, hyperfocus, communication can give energy. I think another thing to mention that I guess support workers should be aware of is that many neurodivergent people that are ADHD and autistic are constantly battling the two of them at the same time. So there'll be this potential drive for dopamine. ADHD is like, oh yeah, let's go and do all these things, right? And then autism's like, oh my gosh, why did you do this again? Like, why? Like, could you just stop, please? Um, you've just led us to burnout now. And it's like, and ADHD is like, but I was having fun. Like you and then ADHD gets distracted and on some other thing. But autism's still just sitting there going, okay, but I'm still burnt out. And now you want to go and do all these other things. Like there's no time, there's no energy. We need to just shut down and not do anything. And that can be really difficult. I think from an outside perspective, like support workers looking in on that, it can often be like, well, you had the energy to do this thing last week. Why are you not doing it this week? Like that makes no sense sometimes to people, and they don't seem to understand that. Um, yeah, I'm so glad you can relate to that. Yeah, that's right. Like I relate to that as well. My ADHD wants to be around everyone. And then autism's the same. It's like, no, I need to be alone. Yeah. My ADHD hates things being the same all the time. Yeah. But change gives my autism anxiety. So lately I've been self-reflecting on this topic as well, and it's about finding the balance between the two, and ADHD is like, I can't find balance. Autism's like, you need it. You need it, like, you need it to survive. Like, why are you so opposed to it? And ADHD is like, because I don't understand what balance is. Like, it's it is so hard. Yes, it really is. It's like ADHD um can just lead autism into that overload, right? And it's like once you're there, how do you get out of that? That's where burnout happens. But yeah, I think as well there's a need for sensory input from an autistic perspective, and then there's this ADHD need for adrenaline, and like I guess that kind of could be sensory input depending as well. So I'm starting to think that there can be a way that the two work together hand in hand. Because when I think about like something that Jessica McCabe often says or has said, which is like working with our brains and not against them, I try and put that into perspective when looking at autism and ADHD, and like bridging them together in a like holistic way, because I know we chat, like so many people chat online about them being, like I think there was an analogy I've heard where autism is like one side of the coin and then ADHD is the other side of the coin. And it's like they're separate, but they're so similar, but they're so opposing one another. There's so many differences between them. And then, but why is it that we can't? It's just something I'm trying to think of myself, but like, why can't we try and bridge them together and work? with them both more. Because I've always just felt personally that they're really separate, even though similar. But yeah, I hope I don't lose my voice. I am a little bit. Um, that's a bit better. Yeah. So what could we do to try and bridge that gap? That's a really good question. Um, keep talking about it and like exploring these topics and really just figuring out more about our brains and looking at like I guess that example that I was chatting about just a minute ago, but like finding ways that we can give ourselves sensory input and dopamine at the same time. Or maybe even the reverse of that, which would be finding something that gives us dopamine because we're probably always, if we're ADHDers, we're probably always going to be seeking dopamine because I'm pretty sure our brains are like not making any of it or it's deficient or like we need it at least. Um, but like finding the dopamine, but maybe lessening the sensory input if we find out we've had too much and we're overstimulated. If we're understimulated, finding an activity that's giving us both things in one. Yeah. There's dopamine, like, and you know what though? This might be actually really valid point too. Just I like exploring topics. I don't know if you know, I've got the answer, but it's nice to think about topics and delve into them really deep. So um yeah. So maybe the thing is if I guess sometimes with ADHD and autism, we can the lack is a negative word, isn't it? It can be challenging to find, um, I guess, like the right balance. It can be hard to know what something's going to do for us. Is it going to give us adrenaline? Is it going to give us dopamine? Is it going to like endorphins, like all of those sorts of things, like what is this activity going to do? Is it going to actually overstimulate us in the end? Because ADHD led us to this really fun exciting thing and that autism just couldn't cope with it, or it was just too much and it's like yeah, you know um sometimes I'm both over and understimulated at the same time. Yeah, and that's a confusing feeling. That is a really confusing feeling. But I relate to that. Yeah. Yeah, so sometimes you know, I wonder if it's a matter of coming up with a list of activities where we've got like I guess personal experience that we can go off that says this particular activity gives me this and just this alone. And that way when we find out what when we're trying to work out what to do with our day to help us to feel the best we can go off that list. And it's almost okay, this is a good way to look at it. It's just thought of this, but like it's almost like a cooking guide almost, but in a weird way. I hope that made sense, like a ingredients list of like just take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and then you'll have the perfect dish that's going to meet your needs in this moment. Like do a little bit of this activity and a little bit of that activity. I maybe that won't work because hyper focus, yeah, we might get stuck on something. It's an idea though, like we could try and do that maybe. um because it's always been important to figure out what works and try and stick to that, right? But yeah, just trying to think outside the box. Like, I don't know. Like, this is what I guess is it like a sensory? I think a sensory diet. It might even already be a thing. I've heard of sensory diets that, like, occupational therapists. I think they prescribe a sensory diet. I might be wrong. Please Google that if you're not sure. Um, I can't edit live streams, so and now I'm getting fidgety. Um, Yeah, it's just interesting, like, does our brain know what we're looking for? Does our brain actually recognize what chemical we need in any given time, or are we experiencing alexithymia type symptoms of, like, it's really fascinating. I could talk about this stuff all day. It really just fascinates me. Because if it's like an alexithymia type thing, are we even aware that we need, yeah, like, is that why we burn out? Because we don't know. We just, yeah, we don't know what maybe we just don't know what we need. We know we need something. And then that's seen as impulsive potentially as well, because it's like, I'm going to go do the thing now. Okay, I'm burnt out. Like, I mean, is it really impulsive, or are we, I mean, yes, impulsivity is a definite thing, but like, I don't know, I'm just questioning everything. Like, is it impulsivity, or sometimes could it be driven to meet the sensory need, and that's just the activity we've chosen, um, or the experience we've gravitated towards without thinking, because our brain is clearly seeking that and we need it, and it's going to help us in some way. At least we hope it does. It's almost like a craving or a desire for that need to be met, and we just have to act on it. But yeah, that is an impulse, really. So is an impulse, like, I mean, impulsive things are often seen as like negative traits, aren't they? So why don't we turn that around and look at that in a positive light? Uh, why not? It's us realizing, oh, there's an unmet need here. I mean, we've just got to work out, I guess, ways to meet those needs that, like, you know, that are right for us. So I guess that does come into that idea I had just then about having a menu and planning everything. Like having a, this helps when I feel like this and this helps when I feel like that. I can't think of examples right now, but hopefully you're following along. Oh, I have 3 likes on this video. I don't know who has liked the video, but thank you for liking the video. Um, I'm also keen to have more comments after this finishes. Like, if you're watching the replay, if you've gotten through this much of the replay, all I can say is either you've fallen asleep watching this, or you're really, really dedicated towards trying to either support neurodivergent people, learn more about yourself, or you're just a very interested human being that is genuinely interested. Or you've got this on in the background and you're doing stuff. I don't know why I had to list all of those things that could be um happening, but thank you for watching the video either way. Um okay, I'm going to wrap up very soon, but I want to just check that there's nothing that I could talk about a little bit more, or anything that I've missed. Have I stayed on track with the theme of this video? I hope so. I briefly mentioned my workplace and how inclusive they are. Um, I don't know. Is there anything else that anyone would like to know? Just ask me, like, anything. Well, maybe not anything, but within reason. I'm aware that that doesn't really help autistic people know what to ask as well. Sorry. um, if it's too hard of a question, I won't. I will just. Oh, sorry. I just dropped my iPad. But if it's too hard, I'll let you know. And if you can't think of anything, that is okay as well. Um, let's see. Eventually, everything that I'm designing, I want to put it on my website so that anyone can, like, access it. and I want to have a lot of like free content. I also plan to create content that's available to be purchased at some point too, but for the most part, I know that there's like barriers towards being able to afford and access resources, so I want to have things there that are just available without, a paywall in front of it, because I don't think that's fair. Um but I also think that, you know, this is like becoming something that's like this whole like topic of neurodivergent advocacy and like sharing my experiences working with neurodivergent people. It's like I want to be able to do this as like a job, or like as one of the jobs I do, because it doesn't feel like work. It honestly just feels like I'm just doing what I do. I'm just existing and I'm hopefully helping people. So I need to be able to like sustainably do that. And I feel like I'm in my zone. I enjoy this stuff a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but it's like I don't know why I probably just the autism. Like yeah. It's not fun hearing about like people that are struggling. That's not fun, but um interacting with people and doing videos is a lot of fun. I look so tired. I haven't even been watching my face. I'm probably falling asleep. Like I've been awake since very early, and I was at work today. Um I had a really good day today. It was nice. Um ah how long have we got? Oh, comments. Yeah, no, I'm really passionate about this. Like I probably could sit here and talk until I actually close my eyes and fall asleep, honestly. And the anxiety I had with the first stream I did is gone now. I just feel like I'm talking to friends. I guess I kind of am, but it just feels like it's natural. And it's much easier to do a live stream than it is to focus on like editing a video. And a video that isn't a live stream, it's not as real. It doesn't feel as like, I mean, yes, you can put a lot of production in, like you put a lot into the production of it and make it look nice and stuff, but it's not as authentic. It feels like it isn't. Yeah. Um oh, so a really, 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 really important thing is that autistic people can struggle to notice or be aware of what's causing them the sensory overload until a trigger is removed. So, my theory on this is that an autistic brain is at the time so severely compromised and fatigued by the constant and relentless amount of sensory input, and that's where it gets to the paralysis point. That's sort of a better way, I guess. That's what we've already talked about that. And not having enough cognitive resources left to work out what's going on for them. The reason that I like to repeat things and say them in different ways is because it gets my brain thinking more about a topic, and then I start to question it more. I start to explore it a little bit deeper. And I'm like, eventually I'll get to a really good analogy, and I'm like, this will work for a neurotypical person. Surely they'll understand what I mean by this now. Um, and I think that also shows itself when I write really, really long winded emails and re explain things in multiple ways, because I don't want someone to be like, unsure of what I was trying to say. And I've also had experiences where I haven't been understood and I've been misinterpreted. And I think that leads me to like trying to use so much energy and just mask through it and be like, okay, I've been misunderstood. So this time going into this social interaction, I better be super switched on and like focused and just, and that can lead to like that chronic exhaustion and stuff, just trying so hard for other people when really it would be so much better if I just used a communication card that said, I don't have the cognitive effort or energy right now, so I just can't answer that question because I don't have an answer for you. But please come back to me later because I probably will by that stage. Yeah. Um, I don't know what happened to my voice then. I was singing. I'd say I'm pretty tired. I think I'm tired, but like my brain isn't always good at telling me when I'm tired. I look tired, so I'm probably tired. And I yawned before, so yeah. Um, I think that I hope I covered enough. Are there any questions? I'm gonna ask one more time because I don't know. It's been almost 2 hours. That's a long time. Hello. I don't know who you are, but hi. Ben jokes. I wish I could say a joke, but I don't have one. I will go to bed soon, like very soon. I'm just hoping for questions because I love answering questions. Like if there's anything I talked about, or if there's anything. Oh, well, I'm just here too, and I should be in bed, but I'm still awake. I have talked for nearly 2 hours straight, so. And I have 3 likes. That's cool. That's awesome. I don't know how many people have been coming and going, but it's good to see people joining the stream. It's more interactive when there's people here, and it's more fun. That's probably gonna keep me awake now. Like, if you want me to pull an all-nighter, just get everyone you know to join, and I will talk until the sun comes up. It's like 1:30 a.m. here, so I thought if I do a stream at this hour, most people will be awake because Australia's in a super weird time zone. So, and I'm definitely getting fidgety because my meds are wearing off. ADHD. Okay, questions. I can make up a question. Can I make up a question? Um, okay. What is one thing that I find a lot of ADHD and autistic people, okay, favorite. We're talking about autism and ADHD, but boredom resolver. Um, oh, okay, this is really cool. I'm gonna tell you guys about this cool thing. So the question from Ben Jokes was, "What's your favorite boredom resolver?" Okay, I have a really, really good one. Um, Okay, I don't know if you have ADHD or are autistic or if you've just found the stream randomly. Either way, I used to do this thing where I'd go out and I'd buy a bunch of little things here and there. I'd wrap them up, I'd put them in a box, and I'd forget what they were. So they just sit in this box in the cupboard. And it was like this exciting dopamine box where you could just open it and be like, oh, a little boost of energy and dopamine. Super fun, but you wouldn't know what was in anything. So it was like there could be snacks, there could be like so you kind of just wrap them. They're all like little presents. And when you're bored, you go to the box, you dip your hand in, and you pull something out at random, and then you unwrap it. And so that was something that I used to do all the time, but I forgot about and stopped doing because ADHD was a thing, and something just fell. I don't know what that was. Um. Oh, cool. Yeah, so it's like a motivational rainy day box. You could use it for anything. It could be like, finally, I've cleaned all the dishes and they're all put away. I'm gonna go find a little thing out of my box now. Yeah. And the best thing is you bought all of the things, so there was a chance that at some point you liked the thing, and so now you can remember um what the thing was and be surprised all over again at the same time. Yeah, so I don't know if you were watching earlier, Ben, but I was talking about like how sensory needs can sometimes impact like oh, you're going to get dopamine. Is that I but need dopamine so intense, so I'll type soon back shortly. When you where do I go to get dopamine? Because now I want to know. Like, can I just jump up and walk off and then come back and or maybe coffee or something? I guess that's dopamine. Um, yeah. Interestingly, I can drink coffee and fall asleep from coffee or with coffee. I don't always stay awake. I can have it in the morning, but I have to tell myself, Jazz, stay awake. You're not going to sleep. You got to drink the coffee and stay awake. We're at 2 hours. This is pretty cool. It's more exciting now. I'm probably gonna stay up. I'm gonna push through the tiredness. Um, dopamine. Dopamine's good, but yeah. As I was gonna say what I was saying before is like dopamine seeking can often cause sensory burnout. Is that what I said? Something like that. I don't think I worded it that way though. But yeah. Um oh my little fringe is getting annoying. I can see it. No. And it's opposited on my camera, so I'm going one way and it's like that. Um, yeah. I feel like oh, and me. I'm not sure what that was in relation to, sorry, Ben. I feel like Dory some days I hear something and then I'm like, I don't remember what I just heard. Like Dory from Finding Nemo or Finding Dory. There's two movies now. Um, yeah, my hair's doing that thing again. Ah. So interestingly, it's interesting how you say that you find your favorite hobby when you get home from work. I remember when years ago when I was back in school, I couldn't wait to get home because I could just play computer games and I could go for a ride on my bike, like push bike. I could just do all of these really fun, exciting things, and like I just was craving that. I was like, yes, like I get my routine, and it's like you know I just miss that. I think I don't know what happened, like, as I got I think school gives us routine because it's the same hours and, we come home at the same time. But now, like, when I work, it's varying different days and stuff, so I don't get the luxury of being able to just have that routine. But I remember the autistic joy of being able to come home and everything felt safe and it was all where I left it. Like all of the things in my room were just there and I'm like, "Oh, like I would just my shoulders would drop. I would just lay on my bed and be like, the world is so much better in my room than it is out in the school." Or like, yeah. But wait, so relief from like existing? If so, I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes existence is hard and we don't know what we need, and the people around us may not know how to help us get what we need. That's, yeah. I think like it could be even just helpful to tell people, hey, like you're here to support me or you're here to be, um helping me to do things. Like the thing is I don't know what I need right now, so I need help to figure that out. That could actually be a helpful thing to say as well. Um, yeah, because if you're not sure what you need, then I guess you need help to like figure it out. Yeah. Um, questions, questions about anything or anything you want to hear about, know about. Okay, so like ways to settle down and like something to do to get rid of like excess energy. Is that what you mean? Anytime, Discord, Zoom. I'm not too sure I'm understanding context, sorry. But it is late here, so um are you sorry, are you giving examples of the things that you like to do that help you? Ah, right. Cool. Yeah. So like chatting to people is helpful. Yeah. Um, are you looking for like suggestions or you're just sharing the things that help? Gaming. I like gaming and it's taken a while to get back into gaming because I guess I went through this phase of like and it was for years, but I was like, I'm too old to game. I'm an adult. I shouldn't be gaming. And then eventually, with some help from some ADHD friends, from a Discord I'm in, I got to the point where I was like, you know, um, maybe I should game again because there's so many people that are adults that are gaming. And one of my friends encouraged me to game, and I was like, yeah. And I feel like it's taken time to feel comfortable gaming again, but yeah. Yeah, I know I'm never too old for gaming. Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing those options. Yeah. Yeah, gaming is not like it's not an age thing. It's like anyone can do it. But I felt bad at the time. I was like, why am I saving money to buy Pokemon games like when I could be saving money for a car and actually getting my license to drive a car? But Pokemon brings me joy, so I that's one of my interests. I can't help that. Um yeah, I feel like we're going off track and my meds are wearing off and things, and that's okay. And I'm not, you know, I'm not like saying it's a bad thing to go on tangents, but fun is a good investment. Yes, it is. To like keep this on track with the theme of this video, support workers, you guys need to understand this stuff. Fun is important and it is a good investment, and it doesn't always need to be that we do productive things every time. You know, there'll be days when we can't. There'll be days where, you know, someone's going to be laying in bed and they just need rest because too much sensory input. And that's normal. That's fine. That's a neurodivergent version of normal. It's to be expected. Normal is a very strange word, and I don't know what normal is most of the time, but yeah. It's like fun is a way of recharging as well. I don't know what life would be like without fun. It would just be boring. Yeah. I'm going to head off now and end the stream before I lose my voice, before I fall asleep sitting upright. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful, and it was great to have some company during the stream, so thanks for sticking around. And I hope that, yeah, I hope that we can chat about this topic more in the future because it's important. And if there's anything that I haven't covered and someone's watching the replay, just comment and let me know. And share this with anyone that you think it might help as well. Yeah, I will see you in the next stream. I'm probably going to try and do these every weekend if I can, and there'll be like a new topic each week. But also keep have a look on my community tab, I think it's called. I will sometimes put polls up and ask people what they want videos about too. So I want to hear from you guys. If you've got ideas, let me know. Thank you, and I will sleep well. I think I'll sleep really well when I sleep. Good night. Bye everyone. See ya.